Hi everybody, I have chapter 16 of Poppy and Rye for you. This chapter is called Poppy Hears Some News. It was quiet in the mouse nest. In one corner, Clover tended to her three youngest children. Poppy was in another corner with the older ones, including Thistle and Curly Dock, telling stories about Dimwood Forest. Valerian was in the middle of the room, surrounded by children, giving them seed lessons. Now this kind, he was saying, holding up a plump sunflower seed, is particularly nourishing and tasty. You never can go wrong with sunflower seeds. Rye and I know a particular fine place to find them. He paused and looked up and around. Say, where is Rye? When none of the youngsters gave an answer, Valerian called out, Anyone know where Rye is? Hearing the name, Poppy pricked up her ears and looked around, but said nothing. It was Thistle who called. He went out. Do you know where? Nope. Valerian shrugged and resumed his lesson. Poppy leaned over to Thistle and whispered, Do you think Rye will come back soon? With Rye, you never know, Poppy. Please tell us some more about your forest. Thistle had grown very fond of Poppy. Poppy talked, but soon broke off. She could not concentrate. Thoughts of Rye crowded her mind. Besides, the warm, close underground air and the crowded conditions were beginning to bother her. I think I need some fresh air, she announced. Promising to return quickly, she made her way to the ground surface. The storm was over. Though dusk had fallen, the air had turned muggy. Poppy sat back to the boulder and looked out. To the west, a lush band of pink and purple layered the sky. Eastward, a pale yellow moon had begun its climb. Fireflies punctuated the growing darkness with sparks of light, as if night itself had a bright pulse. As Poppy remained sitting quietly, looking at nothing in particular, she thought of Aerith with a pang. She had not returned to him. Then she reminded herself how unusually grumpy he'd been. She thought, too, of his repeated statements about his preference for being alone. Poppy decided she'd stay at the mouse nest for the night. Aerith could wait. Putting her friend out of her mind, Poppy was glad to give herself over to thoughts of Rye. She wondered where he had gone. She had little doubt as to why he'd left the nest. It was her words about Ragweed, how she had loved him and had all but married him. The distress upon Rye's face as she told the tale was as easy to see as the sun in a cloudless sky. And yet, Poppy mused, Ragweed was no more. To speculate about what might have been was useless. Poppy reminded herself that she had taken this trip as a way of bringing an end to that part of her life. That had been achieved. Even as she gently touched Ragweed's earring, aware of how restless she was to start life anew. In fact, she thought, with a bolt of boldness, she knew she wanted to share the rest of her life with Rye. Sighing, Poppy looked down toward the pond. Even as she did, she saw a beaver haul himself out of the water, give himself a shake, sending a spray of water in all directions, then proceed to waddle clumsily uphill right in her direction. Poppy grew alarmed. She had never met a beaver before. Having heard angry accounts about them from the mice, she was not inclined to like them. She could see that, compared to her, they were enormous. Moreover, the approaching beaver's huge buck teeth, brilliant orange in color, seemed positively fierce. Dimly, she recalled that beavers and mice were related, second cousins twice removed, or something like that. At the moment, she didn't feel related, only small. The beaver drew nearer. He had a distinct musky smell. Poppy, not sure what to do, glanced around to make sure that, just in case the beaver meant her harm, she wasn't trapped. When they were about 4 feet apart, the beaver halted. How you doing, sweetheart? The name is Castor P. Canad. All my friends call me Cass. As the philosopher said, a stranger is just a friend you haven't met. What's your name? Poppy. Nice, sweetheart, very nice. You're just the one I wanted to talk to. Me? Poppy said. You live under that boulder you're sitting against, don't you? Well, not really, Poppy started to explain. I've only just... Save your breath, sweetheart, Mr. Canad interrupted. I know all about it. You used to live somewhere else, and you've come up here recently. Actually, Poppy tried to interject. Now, unless I'm holding the stick by the wrong end, and I rarely do, there's a mouse by the name of Rye who lives here too. Did I hit the nail on the head? Poppy started. Rye? Yes, he does live here. Good. I like coming to the point. I play hardball and call a spade a spade. Is something the matter with Rye? Poppy stammered. Rye? The kid's as fit as a fiddle, right as the rain. A1OK, Mr. Kanad assured her. Except he broke into our lodge. Broke in? Hey, I'm giving it to you straight. You heard me right. He broke in where he had no business breaking in. I mean, a beaver's lodge is his castle. That Rye is head over heels in trouble. Trouble? Poppy cried, unable to do more than echo what she was hearing. What kind? Off the cuff, shooting from the hip, taking the fast lane. I'd have to say, Rye is violent, but don't worry, he's perfectly safe in a cage I built in my main lodge. He pointed to one of the mounds on the pond. Right there. But that's awful, said Poppy, staring at the lodge. You took the words right out of my mouth. He shouldn't have done it, Mr. Kanad said. Now, sweetheart, I'm talking on the up and up. We'd like to build a dam right here on this spot. Expand Kanad's cute condos. Anchor it to that boulder. To make a long story short, it would be better for everybody if you all moved. Do it in 2 shakes of a beaver's tail with no fuss, and you'll see Rye again. No worse for the wear. But, of course, if you don't move... Then what? Poppy cried. Look here, sweetheart. Let's just say I don't want to beat around the bush. It's a matter of life and death. The choice is all yours. This is a free country. But what if we don't move? Poppy cried. Well, sweetheart, I'll be honest with you. I hope that doesn't happen. Because if you don't go, I'm afraid your pal will have to meet his Waterloo, sink or swim. Because your new home will be flooded too. Some of your youngsters might drown. Naturally, that would upset my family so much, filled to the brim with anger, you know. Say what they might do to Rye. Hoping I'm not boring you, but the decision is yours. Remember, we don't want to force anything on you. Anyway, nice talking with you, sweetheart, and have a nice day. I mean that sincerely. With that, Mr. Kanad turned and began to waddle back down toward the pond. Poppy, finding it hard to take in all she had heard, stared after him. Her first reaction was to go racing after the beaver, tell him what she thought of him, and make him release Rye instantly. But Mr. Kanad, as if knowing what Poppy was thinking, gave a great slap of his broad tail, sending out a resounding thump that shook the earth. So instead, Poppy remained where she was, watching the beaver go into the pond and swim off. Only then did she race down to the entryway, to Clover and Valerian's nest. Okay, so Mr. Kanad has delivered the news that he has Rye, and that if the mouse family doesn't move, basically he is going to do away with Rye. So this is, of course, so alarming to Poppy, as it will be for Clover and Valerian. So hopefully Poppy can tell them, and they can free Rye from the little cage that he's in the beaver lodge. All right, I will be back with more tomorrow. I hope everybody has a great afternoon.